Hey, good day, everyone. Welcome. My name is Alan Schimmel. I'm the CEO of TechStrong. We're the people behind DevOps.com, Security Boulevard, Cloud Native Now, Digital CXO, and TechStrong AI, as well as TechStrong TV. And you're tuning into one of our special People Cert Skill Up sessions. We are partnering with People Cert, worldwide leader in certification testing, service management, project management, as well as DevOps Institute as part of the People Cert family. And we are really happy you're joining us today for this Skill Up session. It's a Skill Up Hour. And today's Skill Up Hour is also brought to you by our sponsors over at F5. For those of you who maybe looked at some of the faces when you signed up for today's event, you're going to see some different faces. Unfortunately, we had two folks, one of which had airline connection problems, unable to make it for today. So we do have Powell Pawaz, and Powell, I always mispronounce your last name. I apologize, joining us, who is here, as well as myself. But I've also asked our TechStrong CTO and principal analyst of TechStrong Research, Mitchell Ashley, to join us. Mitchell happens to be an expert in cloud security, DevSecOps. So I think we've picked up, we may have lost two good ones, but we picked up a great one.
Well, thank you. You're very kind, Alan.
Yep. So let me welcome Mitchell and Powell. Powell, why don't you introduce yourself as well as stating your name correctly? Because I
okay. So my name is Paweł Piwosz. I'm from Poland, from Krakow, and right now I'm DevOps advocate at DevOps. This is my dream. Developer advocate. Oh, let's say DevOps advocate at Spacelift. DevOps Institute ambassador, CD Foundation ambassador, and AWS community builder. So yeah, few things in my table. As a DevOps, I strongly believe in security. However, this sounds naive, maybe, right? But this is what we should do. And I'm not a big fan of DevSecOps. I believe that security is part of DevOps. So probably we will talk about this. Anyway, I've done a few things around security in DevOps, around security in clouds. So I believe I can share my insights here as well.
Excellent. Hey, Mitchell, I introduced you, but why don't you take a moment to introduce yourself as well?
Oh, well, thanks, Alan. Alan mentioned the roles that I play at TechStrong. And my background is both as a product creator and also leading IT organizations, move to the cloud, move to cloud native, microservices architecture, implementing DevOps. So I have a combination of kind of security, networking, and software development, as well as creating products to deliver to market. Alan and I have worked on some of those together. So my experience goes from kind of both looking at the market and talking with people like our participants today and people like Powell and of what we're struggling with, how to implement DevSecOps and moving into the cloud and security of the cloud. So it's a interesting place to be. I get to be part of both conversations, the technology vendor side and practitioners.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mitch, and thanks, Powell. Guys, for our audience out here, first of all, we appreciate you logging in and telling us where you're from. It's always exciting to see what a global audience we attract, especially with the People Cert Skill Up sessions, because People Cert does serve a global audience. The way this works is, look, Mitchell and Powell and I are going to have our discussion around DevOps, DevSecOps, cloud security today. But we want you to be part of that. And Mitchell's written it already in your chat session here at the Big Marker Communications window to your right. And you get to be part of this as well. So if you'd like to put in where you're, beyond where you're logging in from, I see we just get someone from Malta. What a great place that is. I love Malta. But anyway, if you want to put in questions, comments, be part of the discussion, please feel free to do so. You can do it right in the public chat section of that communications window, which for most of you is in the right-hand corner of your web browser. If there's a specific question for our panel, put it under where it says Q&A. If you click on there, put it in there and we see what we can get. And we'll bring it right up to the panel with that. All right. So please do that. Keep telling us where you're coming in as you're logging in. We appreciate that as well. But let us jump into some of the things I wanted to talk about today. So, when I first started DevOps.com about 10 years ago, DevSecOps wasn't as accepted as it is now. Right? There were a lot of people who said, no, that's marketing. Security is security and DevOps is DevOps, and never the two shall meet. But the good news is in the last 3-4 years especially, we've seen a much greater acceptance of DevSecOps. The idea of shifting left, moving security left, further into that development life cycle at the developer stage has really taken hold. But you have other people who say, maybe we've gone too far left. Maybe we've put too much on the developer in terms of security, in terms of DevSecOps. Maybe by shifting left so much, we've put our focus on so much left that we've lost sight of the right. And that, with most of our applications being hosted in the cloud now, we were so focused on shift left that we kind of neglected cloud security a little bit. Or we didn't shift right or shift all over. Every company has a different term for this. Powell, Mitchell, feel free to jump in. What's your feeling on that?
So I think we should have shift everywhere. Anyway, the thing with security and DevOps is quite similar historically, like with agile development and DevOps. Because why DevOps is here? Because operations cannot be as fast as agile development. And now I had a friend, still have the friend, who said to me some time ago that he hates DevOps because we do not think about security. And a couple of years ago, it was really the truth. Right? Security was not completely in our interest. Right now, we have this, as you, Alan, mentioned, this shift left approach. And also together with what I really hate, but well, it is what it is. You build it, you run it. We put everything on these development teams sometimes even without giving them a proper tool set for this. And if to make this simple, if you have to be on call, you should have the VPN connection to your infrastructure, right? And if you don't, what can you do? It's not working, right? So there are elements which we need to put, not just people and their knowledge, but also the whole tooling around, which helps people to properly, integrate their work on daily basis work, really. Because if we go with you build it, you run it, you need to have every single element starting from coding or your laptop or station or whatever to the final environment, and you need to have full control on it. What is also the security risk? Because, well, I feel not very convinced if I hear that every single developer should have full access to production servers. So we have kind of, problem here, right? And so this is something what different companies, different teams solve in different ways. I don't know if we are again in the situation like we saw very, very often with Scrum. Yes, we have Scrum, but right? So that's why we have Scrum Bat. So shift left is good, but we need to give the proper functionalities, the proper tooling to developers to allow them to really care about security, right? Access to tools, access to proper platforms, etc., etc. And in the same time, and this is like maybe this can be done in Hogwarts, but I don't know. In this time, you have to, let's say, decrease the workload on these people, because today we need to be like an octopus shaped people, right? So not TX but octopus shape. We need to know everything. This is impossible.
I guess as long as none of us here are the blood prince, we're okay. You don't want to go down that path in Harry Potter. Pal, really good way to look at this. So let me add another perspective on it. Alan mentioned about shifting security to the developer by shifting left, and that's sort of the early DevOps mantra: is developers could do it all, and developers don't want to do it all, right? And not every developer can do it all. That is sort of we realize that's not a solution. But I think it's become, DevSecOps has become more both shift right and left, because we're looking at early in the design of software, how we're creating the software, how the software is architected, and how do you do security if you're doing an API first kind of architecture, or you're taking a legacy app and modernizing it, some of it somewhat, if you're not doing a greenfield, or maybe you're doing microservices with that as well. So there's a lot of things in how we architect the application, and then the kind of middle layer, I call it the application infrastructure, Kubernetes and containers and things that are all kind of managing the operational part of that, but it's still part of the application stack, right? It's not the app we build, but it's part of the build that it runs on, as well as what's in the cloud. So I can think of DevSecOps as a continuum across the entire DevOps process. And we haven't shifted the job like we started to with shift left. We've opened and widened the lens to look at all those parts of the process, as well as, okay, who's doing the security of the environment, the infrastructure in the cloud? Is there a cloud engineering team? Is there a security team doing that? Is it part of platform engineering that creates these things? So where is that part of it? And we can look at all parts of that chain. And kind of a whole nother topic is, how do we secure the supply chain of where we're creating software? And that's another topic. But I think that's the good thing about DevSecOps, is we didn't get into a religious war about, is it that or is it that? No, we said we need to secure all of it, and what's the proper way to do that.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And if I may add something to here, because when I prepared to this panel, I just refreshed myself with Google, because I'm old-fashioned. I'm not using AI. And when you look there and you ask, for example, for DevSecOps principles, you will find any number from 3 to 10. So there is no agreement even for this, right? Mm-hmm. And the same for DevOps is a little bit better right now, but still, a couple of years ago, it was exactly the same like it is right now for DevSecOps. And I think that shift left doesn't mean that we take security from where it was and move completely to the development. No, everything stays like it was. We just spread it a little bit left, right? So it's maybe not like a shift, but spread left. So you give the additional responsibilities, yes, but also you have a group of people, group of teams which are guards of the security principles in your organization, and give some special frameworks, tooling, etc. down. And in this case, we are able to implement this. Developers are still developers, right? They are developers, not security guys, because if they want to be security guys and think about security, they will go to security or be hackers. They are developers, right? So they need to do what they do best.
So I think this was a valuable lesson, though, that unfortunately, some DevSecOps tools providers learn the hard way. You can't take security tools designed for security people and say, here, developer, have at it, make more secure software. Here's how you make your software more secure. Because they're not security pros, they're developers. So if you want to be successful in letting developers develop higher quality, more secure code, you have to give them tools that are designed for them, right? For what their job is, what their mission is, and what their kind of level of security awareness proficiency is, right?
Yep.
And that's something we've, as I said, I think a lot of companies have learned this the hard way. They didn't understand why the developers were understanding the finer nuances of some compliance issues or something. Well, that's because that's not who they are and what they are.
Well,
right?
the reverse would be like handing an IDE to a security person who doesn't write software and say, here you go, help us secure this right on the front end. A good friend of both Alan and I, Donald Lutz, described to me one time, just like sort of stereotyping here, but just like developers can sniff out a salesperson and a marketing person versus somebody that's talking real stuff to them. They can recognize software that's not built by developers for developers, just by how its programmability, how the APIs, the scripting of it, just how it's put together. So that's a really good point of, is it the security person's job to sit next to the developer and help them write code that's secure, or help them run the scanner of the code, or help them download the right image that's secure? Or is it the security person's job of working with the development team of saying, here's all the things, here's what we want to do, the things we need to protect and secure. What are the best ways to do that? Do you have tools already that do that? Perfect. Great. We don't have tools. If you want to find something that works for you, or you want us to go look for it, we can do it. We can do it however you want. But we want, what's important that it's used and it's effective. Because the worst security tool is one that nobody uses. So, and I think that's that way through the entire life cycle, Alan.
Mitchell, I'm sorry, I lost you there. My internet kind of.
Oh, you did? Okay. You were with me, Powell?
Yes.
Powell, are you on?
Yes. And I completely agree with you that, we very often think about security people as someone who wants to, block us on from every single angle, right? To put the guardrails, to put some software where we need to have like a, multi-factor authentications, like multi-factor and so on and so on and so on. But the proper role of the security is to be
agreed.
Like a
guys. I'd like to move on to another topic here, and again, audience, feel free to jump in, ask questions, comments. We'd really like to hear from you in the chat there. Another thing that I've seen, kind of the evolution and acceptance.
Oh darn!
Oh, that's
Alan definitely having some computer problems there.
Yes, probably security stopped him.
Probably where it's going, because we kind of outlined some topics that we might talk about. So in a cloud native architecture, whether you're doing greenfield or you're adapting, existing legacy applications, you really got a new stack of software. I was kind of mentioning that as kind of that application infrastructure versus cloud infrastructure. That DevSecOps has to work within, or as part of, in this cloud native framework, this operational environment that we're running applications, versus a traditional security model is defining in and out gateways or walls and protecting, the things that can traverse across those lines, right? And of course, we know that security thinks about that differently now. It has to. I'm curious your thoughts on that cloud stack that we run our applications. I'll join in too, but let you start if you want to talk about securing that part of the stack.
So this is very interesting, discussion here, because the security for the clouds and the applications in clouds is very specific. First of all, what we need to understand that if something is in cloud, especially in public cloud, it's not ours anymore, right? It is somewhere else, and we can have the understanding that they have every single potential certificate from the security world, etc., etc. But still, we do not control it. We don't know what's going on behind the walls, right? And here the aspect is that, first of all, we need to deliver the code somehow. Second, we need to run this code somehow. And the third, we need to have some platform on which this code is run. So there are multiple aspects of the cloud development, cloud-based workloads, which we need to really cover. And there is no one really, like in on-prem, who is in charge of this cable which is going out from the building to the world. There's no one, right? I can go there and change the security group and open everything. Simple like that. So that's why there is the fourth aspect. So or the third aspect, which I mentioned already, this run of this workload, the normal life of the product. So now a classic approach to the security that we have, like check marks, right? So we do the pen test, we do tests, yes, we sign this and everything is fine. But let's suppose that we are in top in DevOps world and we do deployment every 5 minutes. 5 minutes to not make things like AWS every single second, right? But 5 minutes. So if I do the pen tests, which are fast enough to do it in 5 minutes, the quality can be arguable, but still, if we do this kind of pen test, after the next deployment, these pen tests are obsolete. Fully, right? So again, this kind of waterfallish approach to security needs to change to be injected into the development and deployment process. That's why we need tools which we inject into CICD, which will be able to control the quality, all aspects of security in the process of delivering this code, this application into the environments. And another aspect is infrastructure, because I don't remember correctly the numbers right now. I don't have it in mind. But if I'm not wrong, 25% or 20-something% of breaches was done because of the cloud misconfiguration, infrastructure misconfigurations. And it's wow, right? This is really, really huge amount. And this kind of misconfiguration, in my opinion, is worse than misconfiguration or some kind of vulnerability in the application. Because if you have vulnerability in the application, it's somehow encapsulated and you need to do much more work to go out. If you have problem with infrastructure, you are already there and everything is possible, right? So we need to have in mind that cloud environment is different because of speed of deployments, which we do, because of the ownership, that we need to ensure that we are really, really, really secure in order to believe that our vendor is secure. This is the next step. And also for the security approach, which is also very important. Very often, if any of you worked 20 years ago in data centers, you remember this for sure, that every single asset, every single server has its own IP. This IP was noted down in some database. Everything was there. And the IP was like a word of God, right? That was the most important element. Today, if you work with IPs, you are already not very cloudy. So this must be also the mental shift for the security guys. They need, and network guys as well, but this is not the topic. We are not talking about the instance. We are not talking about the single resource, single IP. We are talking about very dynamic environment where everything can change, and we need to be ready for these changes and understand why this change happened. Why my auto-scaling group now is 10 servers. In 5 minutes, it will be 100 servers. What happened? Why? Right? Is this normal traffic, or maybe someone started to mine bitcoins? Right. So no, there are new aspects.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were finished.
Yes, I am.
One of the things that sort of a light bulb moment for me was as you get into securing the stack in the cloud, all the principles from that security people know still apply. It's done differently, different tools. But you're still worried about, like in Kubernetes, you're still worried about service accounts. You're still worried about, how admission works. There's policies, right? There's a protection of secrets. There's controlling access to the APIs. There's API gateways, access control policies. If you said those things to a security person, they're pretty much going to know exactly what you're talking about. Maybe APIs is not quite as familiar. So it actually is a good environment to work together with security and platform engineering or cloud engineering and developers to how are we securing the stack and who's doing it, whoever's role that is to do the primary work around it. And of course, in the cloud environment, it has its own things, firewalls and networks and access controls and those kinds of things too. But instead of making it, more complicated and foreign, I think we can look at the things that are common that people already know, right? I mean, developers understand sort of pods and servers and servlets and things that spin up to handle bigger loads. That might not be what security people do, but they know about how to put policies in place to help protect that too.
I think that the strategy needs to change, right? But the general rules for the security are very similar, as you mentioned, like security, the API security or whatever, or security of Linux machine. It's almost the same. Right? The same principles, but the strategy is a little bit different, and the ownership is a little bit different, and this is what changed.
Guys, we've got a couple of comments, questions from the audience I just want to address. Real quickly, and if I mispronounce your name, I do apologize. But Shaik wanted to, they've heard of DevOps, but DevSecOps is new to them. What's the basic difference between these two? And is the work the same as DevOps, or does it work in different ways? So I'll be honest, I've never heard it really referred to as DevOps. They put the sec in the middle to signify the importance of security. Paul, you've heard of it as DevOps?
Yeah. And
is it
also
different
I had
than
quite
DevSecOps, or same thing?
No, it's really the same thing. But the point is, it's like with DevOps, right? We could say Ops Dev. What this change? Nothing. Right? If we say DevSecOps, SecDevOps, DevOpsSec, it will change also nothing, because this is more like a concept. Maybe you want to emphasize a little bit more Sec or Ops or Dev, but it really doesn't matter, because those three elements of the puzzle must be there together to have proper product, to have proper and secure application. So for me personally, maybe I'm strange, but for me personally, it completely doesn't matter.
Yeah, I hadn't heard the term either, Alan, but my funny guess was is this DevSecOps for dyslexics?
I don't mean to.
Don't mean to offend anybody.
We're not offending anyone. Or maybe it could be a translation from English to another language.
Could be. Yeah,
that happens
so.
as well. So, and Javid's saying it's DevSecOps. And that gets to a question that we want to bring up, which is we've seen DevSecOps break into sort of DevSec and then SecOps almost as two separate things, and maybe we treat them holistically. And I want to return to that in just one moment. But another participant, Kenneth, put in, and to me, this kind of represents sort of the classic developer kind of statement here, right? Developers have a lot on their plates. Security is just one of their concerns. It's easy for a security expert to assume that security is the most important thing, but customer value is first. Quality, security, speed of delivery are all secondary to creating value. And I don't think any of us are saying that's wrong, right?
Yeah, that's the reality.
That's the reality. Customer value is paramount. I think what we're seeing, though, is that, and you could probably cite a dozen different studies, is that security is becoming a paramount concern to value, right? And so it's becoming a higher priority. I don't think developers need to be security professionals, and it's certainly not the most important thing of many important things it's one of many important things they deal with. But quality, and to me, security is synonymous with quality. Quality is an important part of that value. No one raises their hand and says, I find a lot of value in an insecure, poor quality piece of code, right?
There's a lot of similarities, Alan, to your point between security and quality, right? Analogy of a car coming off the manufacturing line. If we decided at that point, let's add some airbags to this car now that we've got it rolling on the road, that'd probably be a pretty ugly car. Maybe the airbags wouldn't be very effective. You got to design that in. It's incorporated as part of the process. And I think that's the point of it isn't abandon all things else. It's just about shipping functionality, because guess what? You'll have to pay the piper someday, right? It'll be quality issues, security issues, et cetera. It's how do you bake that into your work so those things are happening? And you may focus really, intently on getting functionality out, but there are processes backing you up to help keep the quality where it needs to be and let you know when there's issues or security kinds of things. I think that's the desired state you want to get to. And not that it's easy. I don't mean to understate what it is. It takes to get there.
Agreed.
And I think that sorry, Alan. I think that even customers are more aware of the reasons why they should even force companies and products they use to be really secure, right? Because it's very easy today to lose everything what you have on your bank account, right? This is quite easy, but it's one mistake, one misclick, and you're done. And people start to understand, because we are bombarded through media, right, about different types of how hackers approach people, etc., etc., etc. And people start to understand that they need to be using the secure products, and this is also kind of force, right? Today, I hope there is not much people who want to have daily basis car without airbags. I hope. So we as a customers pushed the industry to incorporate this security feature, right, and make it easy to be there. So this push needs to be done from really many directions.
Fair. So I want to return to Q&A. Javid has a few things. One of them is the DevOps or DevSec versus SecOps. But before we hit that, he also asked, what are some key security considerations and best practices that organizations should follow when migrating their data and applications to the cloud? And how can they ensure the security of sensitive information in the cloud environment? Right? And that goes to the heart, really, of cloud security, right? And cloud security is something I think all three of us here on the panel, have been dealing with now for almost 20 years, right? I mean, the cloud first started rearing 2005, 2006, and immediately the emphasis was right on that. How can we ensure the security of sensitive information in the cloud environment? But I think we've made a lot of progress. Mitchell, Powell, what's your take on that?
I'm really glad that in this question, Javid asked about the data part of it, because we talk about software and the environments and the stack and all that kind of stuff, and kind of doesn't matter if the data gets accessed or leaked out or hacked. I think one of the things if you're migrating an existing application to the cloud, you'll find the cloud kind of looks like a NAS, a bit of a NAS to you. You don't have to worry about the hardware necessarily at the same level, but you are worried about speed, right? Those kind of things, speed of access. You're worried about backup and restore and recovery. You're worried about high availability. All the things you would be concerned about in your own data center are the same questions you're going to ask about. How do we do those things in the cloud? And security with that as well. So where are my access controls? What am I using for identity management of APIs as well as people? And is that coming from the cloud provider? Am I putting my own, something up there to do that? And how is that secured? And then, of course, what are the access mechanisms to the data? If it's through APIs or microservices or things we've built, are those communications secure? And I think, not lastly, there's a lot more things, but in the cloud, things tend to get distributed pretty quick. It's like, okay, I want to be in 2 regions, right? Or 2 whatevers of the cloud provider. Okay, so that data is in multiple places, or it's at the edge because part of the applications need data, that tightly coupled with where devices are located. So it starts to get a little more complicated. So if you're very familiar with distributed data and databases, data technologies, that's a big help, because oftentimes that's where this goes to.
Yeah, I agree completely. And that every single cloud, every single proper cloud provider offers you also some benchmarks, some tooling which you can use to assess how well you fit the security posture, right? And what you need to fix in order to be even more secure. And there is another aspect. If we talk about cloud, very often we operate with infrastructure as code. Right? So we started to codify our infrastructure. So we started to treat infrastructure as part of the code. That is why this code also needs to be part of the security scanning and security control, etc., etc. And what is infrastructure as code? Because this is something what I ask every single time when I talk about infrastructure as code. And my definition, kind of, let's say, funny definition, is that infrastructure as code is a way to deliver hidden misconfigurations everywhere in the same time. That is why, and I have this definition in order to show how important it is to implement, to inject the checkpoints, the quality gates in your process, in your CICD, generally speaking, to control and try to catch as much as you can before you hit the environment. Because if you deploy infrastructure which is vulnerable, it's already too late. For Elasticsearch, years ago, like 6, 7, 10 years ago, you need like really 5 minutes to be completely hacked if you just started with plain Elasticsearch, right? So it is really quick today, and there are so many crawlers, so many bots going around and looking for not secured API keys, open S3 buckets in AWS, etc., etc., etc. All of those aspects are very important, and all of those aspects are in the best practices in these benchmarks provided by cloud vendors. And you can go manually with this if you want. You can download or execute some software which allows you to control your stack against this benchmark and tell you where you should improve. Right? So This is very important. Starting with simple things like encryption at rest, encryption in transit. Right? Do you need it? If not, why? And do you really understand what can happen if you do not have this? So these questions. I know when you start with clouds, it sounds like, oh my, it's so huge work to do. But in fact, to start, it's not that high to start with this, because you can do it just by reading the documentation in the cloud. And second, even if you think to have this 100% security is very hard. So let me tell you, it is impossible to have 100% security. This first point. And it's better to have 1% of security in your application than 0. So just start with this.
Fair. Guys, I want to hit Javid's second question, which was this, and I'm going to paraphrase, but it's basically taking apart DevSec from SecOps. Is first of all, is that a valid way of looking at the situation, right? There's one set of sort of DevSecOps for developers, and that security applies to the ops piece of it. The SecOps thing is kind of separate and apart, or is it just one continuum, if you will, right? With the integration point, and if so, what is that integration point? Is that the way we should be looking at it going forward? Is that more enlightened than just saying DevSecOps? Say DevSec and then SecOps?
Okay, so you have a .NET developer who is using CDK in AWS and is in charge of his own CICD to deploy on this AWS. Is he developer or sysadmin? Who is he?
It's a good question.
If he is DevSec or SecOps or DevOps, he is everything.
Yes.
Generally speaking. So I would not split this. This is I know that we work as a teams, and Agile taught us something what I believe we understood in very wrong way. So we have independent, self-organizing teams, and this team is in charge of decision what they will do, blah 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 blah. But the fact is, on the end of the day, it's not the team who is selling the product. It's the organization. That's why we need to look on this holistically and look on this from a little bit different perspective. And I know this sounds like, I will not use this word, but everyone is responsible for security. And that's the truth, right?
Yeah.
So I would not separate this completely.
I tend to agree with you. Mitchell?
I think there's a natural, or maybe it's some kinetic motion energy of organizations to separate it, because we've had development and operations as two oftentimes siloed things, but hopefully less so now. Yes, I mean, there are people who are operating it, who are not developers, who are going to be in their SOCs that are managing security, right? So there are people who specialize in certain aspects of it, like platform engineering or whatever it is. So there are people who are going to do just that job and not do development. And there's going to be developers that are not doing, security and operations as their primary work. So there are roles, there's personas in this as well. But the reason why I think, to both of your thoughts, the reason why to look at it is together, it's kind of a continuum, is just look at the market. What we call observability tools in the development world, security people call is their SOC monitoring system, right? They use these vendors sell it more to security people than they do to IT operations. Why? They have the same challenge of bringing this information together, connecting what's happening, trying to add context to that information. So that's just one example. You can go to in platform engineering, we want to create environments that developers start to create software in, whether it's on their computer, laptop, or it's in the cloud or wherever, that look as close to test and production as possible. And we want it secured that way too. And so it's, yes, there are people who perform those jobs and don't perform the others, but I don't think it's a separation of how you look at security or operations or development.
It's very close collaboration.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally agree
So-
with that.
So here's what I'm hearing though too. And this goes again to a basic fundamental of DevOps. It is about the people. It is about the culture. It's
And
not
sharing.
just about the tools.
Absolutely.
The tools don't decide whether you're SecOps or DevSec. How your organization works together makes it that DevSecOps should be one continuum, right? Having that border, right, where you need a passport to go from DevSec to SecOps, I think is just is just opposite of everything that DevOps stands for. And maybe that's okay. Maybe you say, "Yeah, who cares about DevOps?" But you know, that's why we're here today. And I though I think both sides of that equation are important, just as Dev and Ops are important in DevOps. The point here is bringing them together, right? That communication, that single continuum, which is, I think, what makes it powerful, right? One could say we were doing SecOps forever, right? Because security, SOC and the knock and all of that good stuff, right? But anyway, that's my take on that particular question.
And
Let me
yes,
add
that-
one
that-
thing to what you said, Alan, and that is I think there's a cultural shift underway happening away from security as the gatekeeper who prevents the rest of the company from screwing up and having security issues, right? In the land of no and all those kind of things. You could say that about IT as well. So it's not just security. I think it's breaking down that kind of approach to security and saying, no, I can't, that doesn't work, because by the time it gets to us, that's why we're always behind and we're going to have security issues. We are. And so I think security teams have opened up, and development teams and operations have opened up, to your point, all about collaboration and working together and thinking about it, not just in their silo of their specialty, but how is this all working? I may not understand all of it, but I can look at it from my perspective and understand my discipline in it to say, can I run this in the operational environment? Is it going to be secure? So I think that's that attitude of you're talking about of, the line that you can't cross unless you get approval from security.
We have a tendency to talk about tools because, honestly speaking, I'm sorry to say that, but talking about tools and automation, from Colm's model, right, is the easiest way, because it's very touchable. The tool, you know the tool or not, you use this tool or not. If we talk about culture, if we talk about different aspects of DevOps world, DevSecOps world, it's become untouchable. We cannot touch it. We cannot have like a very simple metric. How can you say that your culture in the organization is proper, right? And what to do? How to measure culture? How to measure sharing? It's kind of tough. That's why we have tendency to, probably even unconsciously, to switch from these topics. But I believe that in this case, the main focus should be on this: how we share the knowledge about security, about operation, about development through the organization, how we work with the ownership, how we work with the understanding why part of the company, like security people, want this and this and this, and why this is important, and what we can achieve with that, and how it helps right? So this kind of discussion is something what is very often missed, and that's why we have like a not silo in the terms like we had 20 years ago, but mental silos.
Yeah, agreed. Hey guys, we only have maybe 7 minutes, 5 minutes left here. But one topic that we had on our questions that we didn't hit on was this whole, how can you do a webinar or anything without talking about AI?
I knew that's where this is going.
5 minutes. How do we where does AI fit in here? How is AI already changing or influencing the discussion, or it's kind of still wait and see where we go with that?
Yeah, I'll jump in bow first and then let you finish. We lost Alan again, who's
Yes.
toward network. There's different dimensions to look at AI in this whole context. Right? One is AI that we have built into the tools that we use, monitoring and observability, and that we might use in our CICD pipeline, that kind of thing. There's also us building AI app-based applications, ML, we're doing generative AI, large language models and vector databases and all that good stuff. And how do we manage that not as a separate silo, which would be probably where we would start at, would be the tendency from the past. But how do we think about it of build your AI app or build your LLM so it's going to run in a container? So when it comes time to take it out of sort of experimentation or prototyping mode, and you're ready to start with your kind of first commits to the CI/CD pipeline process, think about how it's going to flow into that. And then I think so how does that work? How does that content, the AI content, either code or data or both, fit into our CICD DevOps workflows and pipeline? And then the third thing is AI is a lot of generative AI around developer code assist, assisted code development, Copilot kinds of things. And we're kind of seeing Copilots popping up for a lot of different roles and jobs. So I think, Alan, I don't know what the future is going to be, but I think there's going to be a lot of AI in it for sure.
Absolutely. Maybe you can help with my internet connection today. It seems to be
get some AI bots on that internet.
Yeah. Terrible. Paul, how about you?
When we talk about AI, I have always the picture from Star Trek: New Generations, where one wrong word said to the computer led to hijack the whole enterprise by the entity created in holodeck, right? And the problem with AI is that you really need to know what you expect from AI. You need to understand the problem really deeply in order to be able to assess if the answer given to you by AI today, like ChatGPT for whatever else, right? I'm thinking simply here, is correct or not. So some time ago, I did an experiment. I asked ChatGPT to create a Lambda function to authorize users. And then I asked this ChatGPT to create secure function. Just change of one word, change the 60% of the code. So the risk here is that still maybe I'm pessimistic, but today AI is not ready to be like something what is going with you hand in hand and helping you to do your work. But this is great tool to give you some ideas, some thoughts, what you should think next, what you should do next, what should be your approach to the topics in more general way than just simply be like another coder in your team. This is still far away, I believe. Especially if you think about very, very specific, very sophisticated application, very sophisticated tools. Because the problem with AI today is that we can use something what is at least globally available, like ChatGPT or things like this, which has its own security things as well.
Mhm.
But this model is, is created from internet. Let's say this like very, very simply, right? And this model has all problems like internet has. So simple example, and I know that it's not one-to-one connection, but if you look for some solution on Stack Overflow, you have 20 answers and only one is correct. And all of this is taken into the model to teach this model, right? Of course, there are weights, etc., but the answer, what you get from AI is as good as the things, as the data you put into AI. And we need to remember about this. And where AI is really good is, as you Mitch said, with the things to analyze the logs, analyze the traffic, analyze the all observability systems, and find these discrepancies, small discrepancies, which you will be probably not able to catch by eye, and notify you about this, to find the, let's say, the real cause in the chain of events in your alerting system, right? So for this, I will go like with closed eyes, right? But for let's say more creative tasks like coding, probably not today.
I think it'll be here, but it'll be much better at coding sooner than we think. Anyway, gentlemen,
Yeah,
thank you
afraid
both.
that.
We're about out of time. I actually have to jump onto another panel right now. But Powell, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
From
Pleasure as always.
From Poland. Mitchell, I know we kind of called you in here last second. I hope you enjoyed the conversation.
Oh, I loved
Great
it.
job.
My first time talking with Powell, too. I really enjoyed
Yeah,
that.
it was
Too.
great stuff. To
Thank
all
you.
of you out there, thank you for joining in, and we hope you found this of use and informative. And thanks to F5 for sponsoring today. Until next time, this is Alan Schimmel for Tech Strong Learning. And on behalf of PeopleCert, you've just listened to another SKILup session. Have a great day, everyone.
Take care,
Everyone.
everybody.
Thank you very much.